company, when you look at the general trend in the mining industry, which was more like in a space of divide and rule of workers, even before the incidents of Marikana in August.
And you're aware of the fact that 2 Lonmin security guards lost their lives protecting NUM's office?
I am very much aware.
Hardly the behavior of an employer who wants to wipe NUM off the face of the earth, is it?
Well, I also need, Mr. Chairman, to bring to your attention, they had to do it because those offices were within reach of the company, and those were company premises which they had allowed NUM to be part of.
And Minister, neither NUM nor AMCU, and I say it with all respect to my learned friend Mr. Mpofu, even Mr. Mpofu hasn't put a version before this commission that Lonmin wanted to wipe NUM off the face of the earth.
Well, Mr. Van As, if a company has tendencies of dividing workers and treating workers in a particular way, that signifies an intention of doing away or not being happy with the union.
And this is a very serious allegation you're making against Lonmin, is it not?
Well, Mr. Van As, indeed, it is a serious allegation, or it's a fact, it's not an allegation. It does not start here, Mr. Chairman. It's an issue which was there even before this particular incident.
And can you please explain to the Commission why you made no mention of it in your statement?
I was dealing with issues relating to from the 9th of August. But the characterization of the behavior of Lonmin was not about this particular period, has been there even before.
And you also made no mention of it in your evidence in chief.
Well, my evidence in chief talks about the incidents from the 9 to the 16.
Let's look at the document in question. There's reference to Amplats and a loss of jobs over there in paragraph 3. Do you see that?
Which document are you referring to?
The newspaper report that you quoted in.
He's referring to page 10 of the bundle.
It's up on the screen.
I thought it's up there. I'm looking at the...
Quadruple Q 1.7.
The union said this week that it lost 44,000 members over the past year, with more losses expected to be confirmed when Amplats, the world's largest platinum mine, completes a union verification exercise shortly. The exodus from NUM followed a violent and chaotic recruitment campaign by the rival Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union, AMCU. Do you see that, Minister Shibanga?
I can see that, it's true.
Now, why on earth would there be reference to this in this newspaper report if you were talking about Lonmin being the sinister force determined to remove NUM off the face of the earth?
Well, it's the company itself, because the issues raised before, for me, was an issue that Lonmin was not happy with the union, or a strong union.
Well, Minister Shibanga, with the greatest of respect, all the evidence before this commission up to this stage indicates exactly the opposite.
Well,
let me please finish. The criticism that Lonmin has faced from the evidence leaders, from various parties, and with respect, has been alluded to by the commission itself, is that it should have spoken to the workers and to AMCU, and that should not instead have insisted on only speaking to NUM through organized structures.
Mr. Chairman, when you characterize a situation, you don't characterize or look at it from the immediate. You look at the history of the behavior of a particular person or subject. In this case, it was not about the characterization only of what was going on. If you look at me, I was addressing NUM on the issue of how best they need to move forward.
In relation to membership, Minister Shibanga.
In relation to a behavior which is cropping in In the country where we see a lot of forces coming in, as we characterize them with an intention of weakening, or some of them cropping in through by various managers with an intention of weakening the unions.
The unions or NUM, Minister Shibanga?
I must say unions in general. But in this particular space, because I was talking to mine workers, it was in relation to this. But generally in the country, there is a trend when it comes to unions to be weakened in many ways.
And can you please explain why you make absolutely no reference to Lonmin itself in this article? Such a serious allegation.
I was addressing workers about the general situation in the country. And when it arises in the commission, in respect of this, I'm mentioning Lonmin in particular because we're here about Lonmin. But the general trend, I had indicated when Impala had challenges. Again, there was an issue of workers being divided and some of the workers being frog march in that process. So it's everybody here, or it's all the mines which, or employers in the mining industry which were undermining workers' rights.
So it's not only Lonmin, it's Amplats and Implats as well?
Mainly it's Lonmin in that particular space and Implats. Those were the unions, if I have to characterize, I'm referring to here.
What we'll be arguing before the Commission, and I must afford you an opportunity to comment on, Minister, is who you're referring to over here as AMCU. The force who you saw determined to remove NUM from the face of the earth was AMCU. Not Lonmin, not Impala, not Amplat.
Mr. Chairman, that's your own opinion. I will never, ever see a new union being a rival. I will never, ever. Always is the employer who's the cause of the tension and the conflict.
Always the employer, Minister Shibanga.
Indeed so.
The Minister of Mineral Resources in an open forum, or the former Minister of Mineral Resources in an open forum, he's saying that the employer is always responsible for problems on mines.
Mr. Van As, through you, Mr. Chair, indeed, employers are responsible for many, many ills which happens in any industry.
No, Minister Shibangu, the employer is always responsible for all problems on mines. That is your evidence.
Well, Mr. Van As, through you, Mr. Chair, indeed, if you want me to bring evidence, some of them has been led here, where Lonmin specifically was altering some of the commitments it has made to the department.
And what on earth has that got to do with wiping NUM from the face of the earth?
That's part of a union or bosses which are hostile to unions, and there's nothing new. Through the number of years in South Africa, we've seen bosses who are hell-bent to wipe off unions from the earth.
I'd like to also take you to exhibit quadruple Q2, please, if we could have that up on the screen. We could go to the second page, please. My instructions are that this document was both hand-delivered and emailed to your office, Minister Shibanga.
Well, Mr. Van As, I never saw this document.
And isn't that unfortunate? Because you'll see one of the recommendations, if you look at the last bullet point, is perhaps you could invite NUM and AMCU top leadership with our executives and others in the mining industry to meet with you in an effort to understand the drivers of the situation, but at the very least issue a joint statement condemning the violence and urging all to work together to restore peace and stability.
Well, Mr. Van As, through you, Mr. Chair, if you look at the statement which I had issued earlier on when I was in Brakpan, I spoke about the parties coming together. I spoke about recognition or realizing the law. People have to abide by the law and work towards making sure that they find an amicable solution. So, Mr. Chair, I want to once more state Right from the beginning, I indicated, whilst for them it might be an exhibit from their side, I was out of the office the whole week, and therefore it only came to my attention on the 19th, which was a Monday, when I was back at the office.
Perhaps let me ask the question more clearly, Minister Shabangu. That's hardly the approach or the offer of an employer who's intent on removing a union from the face of the earth, is it?
Well, Mr. Van As, if you look at this, that's your own perception or your own opinion. It might come up because the employer realizes that they are in trouble.
I see. And you're also aware of the fact that a number of people have been killed on the Platinum Belt, both during that strike and the subsequent strike in 2014, and for that matter, during the life of the Commission.
I am aware, Mr. Van As.
Allegations of kill the numb. Are you aware of those allegations having been made? Witnesses having given evidence before this Commission that such allegations, such words were chanted?
Well, Mr. Van As, I've stated here that this was an issue which was long there, not only during this particular era.
You're aware of those allegations of violence and allegations of kill the numb? Please answer the question.
It's her to say yes, she was, but she's been around for a long time. I think that's her answer.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Allegations of kill the numb made during the strike of 9 to 16 August.
Well, Mr. Van As, I've never ever heard about an allegation which you're stating. I've never said that it never referred to kill the numb on the 16th. And I don't remember hearing that too.
I don't know if you heard about it, but on the 15th, the evidence was that when Mr. Sekwana went to address the strikers at the Kopi, there was a chant or a song, kill Num, kill Sekwana. And Mr. Sekwana tried to address the people, they didn't listen. So he left, and then Mr. Batunjwa came. He got a different reception. So, but were you following the events, watching television news bulletins?
Well, as you know, Mr. Chair, that some of us don't have sufficient time to sit next to the television because sometimes you come back at night.
I know. On this particular occasion, though, on the evening of the 15th of August, did you watch the TV news bulletin? I'm not sure it broadcast that, but that was an event that happened on the 15th.
Mr. Chair, on the 15th, I was preparing for my Women's Day, and I came back at home at 9 o'clock.
What I want to put to you with respect, Minister Shabangu, is that it's unfortunate and indeed irresponsible that you make remarks like removing unions off the face of the earth under circumstances in which a number of people have unfortunately, a number of union leaders from both sides have unfortunately been killed during the course of this Commission of Inquiry.
Well, Mr. Chair, may I also say, in my life, before I've seen, as we built this democracy, in pre-democracy, where union indeed were wiped off the earth.
And I want to afford you an opportunity to withdraw the comment that you made during this newspaper in this newspaper article. Do you wish to do so?
Well, I'm unable to do that.
Right. Well, that's even more unfortunate. And then finally, I'd like to refer you to page 27 of Exhibit Quadruple Q1. I think that's item Quadruple Q 1.10, Mr. Chairperson, the last page. This is an extract from your address to Parliament on the 21st of August 2012. I'd like to refer you to the page on top of the paragraph on top of the page. And these are your own words, Minister Shabangu. Finally, I should like to make an appeal to this House, not only to share in our nation's collective grief.
Can you give a chance? You said what page?
It's up on the screen. It's the last page. Top paragraph. Are you with me, Minister Shabangu? Mm-hmm. Finally, I should like to make an appeal to this House, not only to share in our nation's collective grief, which all our members already do, but to exercise restraint when it comes to rushing to judgments, pending the outcome of the inquiry. And that's exactly what you did, Minister Shabangu. You rushed to a judgment pending the outcome of this inquiry by unfairly blaming my client.
Well, Mr. Van As, in this particular case, we found people rushing ahead in terms of the commission, and on the basis of that, I was referring to this particular commission because there were people who wanted to make particular statements in respect of the commission itself.
And you do not believe making a statement that one of the parties to this commission is actually intent on crushing one of the representative trade unions is rushing to a conclusion that can have an effect on the findings of the commission?
Well, that statement in South Africa, we have a history of, as I've indicated, Mr. Chair, of companies getting rid or destroying unions. Even in this democracy, we still see that happening. So we are warning NUM to be careful. Instead of fighting amongst themselves, they need to unite.
Let me try once more. You do not believe you prejudged one of the very issues that this commission is required to determine by making the public statement you made to NUM.
Well, Mr. Van As, unless you are not from South Africa, there's a history in this country which continues, which has not completely been eradicated, where undermining of unions still continue in this country.
And is that not one of the issues that this commission is supposed to have a look at, whether Lonmin in fact treated its unions fairly?
Well, it's your opinion that they treated their work fairly. Or
Please listen to my question, Minister Shabangu. Is that not one of the issues that this union is looking at? Sorry, I beg your pardon, this commission is looking at.
Well,
Lonmin's attitude and behavior towards trade unions.
Well, that's another aspect, but I was talking to NUM to make sure that they become strong and they don't fight amongst themselves, Mr. Chair.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Vanaz. Mr. Badenhorst, do you have re-examination of the witness?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
No question. Sorry? Yes, very well. Then that concludes the evidence for today. I take it Mr. Mzuzu is not ready to continue his evidence. That he will do tomorrow morning?
No, I think he was part of the walkout that just happened, Chairperson.
I see. All right. Well, then we'll adjourn then till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
So you're not here tomorrow?